Today I'd like to talk about something that's a little hard for me to describe as much as I'd like to. It's a concept called backlash, and it's a property that most gear systems have to some extent or other. Sometimes you can see it and sometimes you can't, and it's the looseness between the two components. Here's a worm gear and the driven gear, and you can see that at some point it's just kind of loose. It's not necessarily bad to have backlash, and it doesn't make the tuner tune less adequately, but it can be a problem in some cases. So we can take advantage of not having to worry about the backlash by being very careful always to tune below the note needed and then up to it. And that locks the gear mechanism back here on the way up, so the pressure of the string is trying to unwind this cog, and if I lock it by tuning up to the note, that won't happen. Here's an example of an instrument where the fit of the tuner is such that if I were to tune below the note down to the note, I end up at a spot where the worm is completely loose, and the backlash will be taken up by the tension of the string. So this tuner will slip. There's nothing wrong with the tuner really if I make sure that I go below the note and then tune up. That locks the backlash. So is backlash a bad thing? Not necessarily, but it is something to be aware of, and that's one of the reasons that we must always tune below the note and then up to it rather than down to the note. Here's an example of a tuner that's extremely reliable. It's the classic enclosed tuner, and people think these must have no backlash at all because they're so reliable. In fact, they have more backlash than the other tuners, and inside you can see they're kind of sloppy. You can see how that little the little gear moves around in there. And it's because it's nice and loosely fitted that its backlash is always taken up by the tension of the string.